The school bell rang sharp at 8 a.m., echoing through the long, shiny hallways of Roosevelt High. Students poured in, talking loudly, laughing, rushing to get to class on time. Backpacks bounced, shoes squeaked, and lockers slammed shut. In the middle of all the noise stood a girl named Amara. She stood quietly near her locker, placing her books one by one on the metal shelf. She moved slowly, carefully, like someone who didn't want to be noticed. She wore a plain gray hoodie and black jeans, her backpack hanging loosely on one shoulder. Her eyes didn't meet anyone's. Her hair was tied back neatly, and her face stayed calm. She didn't talk much. She didn't hang out with the popular kids. She didn't run in the hallways, or laugh loud, or post selfies in the cafeteria like everyone else. Most people ignored her. Others whispered about her. Who is she? Is she mute or something? She's just weird. But no one really knew Amara, until that morning. Just as Amara closed her locker, 3 girls turned the corner at the end of the hallway. You could hear them before you saw them. Loud laughter, heels clicking fast against the tiles, and the sound of gum being popped. They were the queens of the school lore. At least they thought they were, Tina. The leader wore a bright red jacket and gold hoop earrings. She walked like she owned the place. Mia, tall with long braids and perfect nails, followed her, and Jade, the smallest but meanest, brought up the rear. They didn't walk, they marched like soldiers on a mission, and that morning, their mission was Amara. Look who's standing all alone again, Tina said loudly, so that half the hallway could hear her. She laughed as she walked closer. Mia and Jade followed, smirking. Amara didn't say anything. She turned slightly and adjusted her backpack. Oh, you too good to talk to us now? Jade snapped. You think you better than us, huh? Still? Amara stayed silent. Tina stepped in front of her. What's in the bag, quiet girl? A diary? Some tissues for when you cry alone at lunch? Mia giggled. Or maybe she's hiding her imaginary friends in there. Jade rolled her eyes. Pathetic. Tina leaned in. Say something, freak. The hallway wasn't empty. Students were watching, some with shock, some with curiosity, some pretending not to care. But no one stepped in. No one said a word. Tina grabbed Amara's collar and gave it a strong yank. Hey, I'm talking to you. The force pulled Amara slightly forward, but her body didn't flinch. Her face didn't show fear, not even surprised. She simply looked up, and for the first time, her eyes locked with Tina's. There was something off about that stare. Cold, controlled, not angry, not scared, just still. Like a lake before a storm, Tina took a step back without even realizing it. You got a problem, huh? She snapped, louder now. She hated being stared down. Mia and Jade stood close, waiting for Amara to do something stupid, cry, scream, push back, anything. But Amara didn't move. Then she spoke. 5 words, soft, calm, chilling, don't touch. Me again? Ever? Tina laughed, but her voice cracked. The freak speaks. Mia tried to laugh too, but it didn't come out right. Amara picked up her backpack. Her hands were steady. Her voice had been quiet, but firm. Something about it made the hallway quieter than before. More students were watching now. Whispers began. Did you see her face? She didn't even blink. It was kind of scary. Yo, I think Tina got shook. But Tina couldn't back down now, not in front of everyone. She took a deep breath and reached for Amara's collar again. Only this time, she didn't get to touch it. Amara stepped sideways, smooth and quick. Her movement was so fast, so controlled. Tina's hand missed completely. It wasn't just a dodge, it was trained. Jade raised an eyebrow. What the Tina stepped forward again, angrier now. Shh. Don't you dare move away from me, you little. Before she could finish, a teacher's voice boomed across the hallway. Hey, what's going on over there? Students scattered. Like birds? Tina jumped back. Amara calmly turned and started walking toward her class like nothing happened. The teacher didn't see what had just happened. He only saw a group of students standing around. Get to class, all of you. The crowd slowly dissolved, but no one forgot what they saw. Amara sat down in her first period class, opened her notebook, and began writing like nothing happened. But something had definitely happened, something that would change everything. In the back of the classroom, Tina sat red-faced, trying to look cool. But her fingers tapped the desk fast, and her eyes kept flicking toward Amara. Elsewhere, inside the school security office, a man named Mr. Harlan sat in front of a wall of cameras. He watched the screen's half-board, sipping coffee. When something caught his attention, he rewound the footage from hallway 3A. He watched as the three girls approached, watched as one grabbed Amara, watched her expression, then paused. REWOUND. Watched. Her sidestep a kink, silent, perfect. He leaned forward. That's not normal, he whispered to himself. He picked up the phone and dialed the principal's office back at home that night. Amara sat at the dinner table with her father, a tall, quiet man with a scar across his jaw and a deep voice. "How was school?" he asked, passing her the rice. "Same," Amara said. Her father looked at her. "Anyone touch you again?" Paused, then shook her head. "Not anymore." He nodded slowly. "Good, you remember the rule?" Amara whispered, almost like a prayer. "Never start the fight, but end it fast." Smiled. "That's my girl." Then he reached into a drawer beside the table, pulled out a folded black cloth, and placed it gently in front of her. A black karate belt. She stared at it. "You ready?" he asked. Amara looked down at her hands that had been still all day. She nodded. Back in school. Tina wasn't done. She never lost. She wasn't going to let some weird, quiet girl win. So she started planning something big, something public. She didn't know that she was planning her own fall, because Amara wasn't just a quiet girl anymore. She was a storm, and the storm was about to break. For most students at Roosevelt High, school was just a routine. Classes, lunch, laughter, a few fights here and there, and back home. But for Amara, every school day felt like walking through a minefield. One wrong step, one wrong word, and boomies were on her. She didn't want eyes on her. She wanted silence. From the moment Amara had joined the school 6 months ago, people noticed her, but not in the way someone wants to be noticed. She was different. She walked alone. She never talked unless someone spoke to her. She always sat in the last row. She always kept her backpack zipped up tight even during lunch. Rumors started quickly. She's mute. She's in therapy. She's been to juvie. She sees ghosts. None of it was true, but no one cared about truth. They cared about stories. And Amara was a mystery wrapped in silence. In the classroom, she was quiet. In the hallway, she was quieter. Even in gym class, she never ran full speed. She always held back on purpose. But what no one knew was why Amara lived in a small apartment with her father, Malik Johnson, a retired Army instructor and former martial arts champion. He never smiled much. His voice was always calm but serious, like a man who had seen too much of the world to laugh easily. Their apartment didn't have many decorations. No bright paintings, no fancy shelves. Just medals, belts, old photographs of a younger Malik kicking through boards and breaking bricks with his bare hands. There was only one rule in that house. Never start a fight, but end it without fear. It started when Amara was 10. She came home one day with a black eye and a torn backpack. Some kids had bullied her in the park. She hadn't told anyone, not until her dad saw the bruise. He didn't ask for names. He didn't get angry. He took her hand, looked her in the eye, and said, "It won't happen again. Let's begin." That night, in their small living room, he cleared the space and made her stand barefoot on the wooden floor. She didn't know what was happening. But when he bowed, she copied him. When he lifted his hand, she followed. And when he whispered again, she moved until her legs shook. That was the beginning. By the time she was 13, Amara had already earned a brown belt. By 14, she was sparring with grown men. And now at 16, she could block, flip, kick, and pin someone down in 5 seconds flat. But no one at school knew, because that was her father's second rule. Power without control is just chaos. So Amara trained and hid
Ow!
and waited until yesterday, when they grabbed her collar. Today the halls were different, quieter when she passed by. Some students whispered behind their hands. Others looked away. A few just stared like they were trying to solve a puzzle. And the bullies. Tina didn't say a word. She walked past Amara once in the morning but didn't make eye contact. Mia looked confused. Jade had her arms crossed like she was trying to stay angry, but something had clearly changed. Amara didn't smile. She didn't smirk. She just kept walking. In second period English, the teacher read poetry aloud while students took turns answering questions. When it was Amara's turn, she read her part softly but clearly. The teacher blinked. That was beautiful. She said, surprised. The class looked at each other. She can speak. She does talk. Did you hear her voice? That's when something began to shift. For the first time, someone raised a hand and asked, "Do you want to sit with us at lunch?" Amara looked up, surprised. She gave a small nod, but her eyes stayed cautious. Kindness wasn't always real. She knew that. Lunchtime came. The cafeteria buzzed with loud conversations. But one table sat strangely quiet. Tina and her crew. Mia scrolled through her phone nervously. Jade was playing with her food. And Tina, she just stared into the distance. "She's not normal," she muttered. "What?" Mia asked. Tina shook her head. "That girl, the way she moved yesterday, that wasn't luck." Jade scoffed. "So what?" "She took one self-defense class." Tina leaned forward. "I watched it on someone's phone. I saw it clearly. She knew what she was doing." Mia frowned. "What do we do now?" Tina looked around. "Nothing. For now, but we're not done. Not yet." Across the cafeteria, Amara sat with two other girls who had invited her. One of them, Leah, smiled gently. "We've seen how they treat you. That wasn't okay." Amara nodded. "It's fine." "No," the other girl, Annika, said. "It's not fine. You shouldn't have to go through that." Amara looked down. "They don't bother me anymore." Leah leaned in. "Because of yesterday?" Amara didn't answer. Annika whispered, "Did you really twist her arm without touching her?" "Yes." She looked up. Her voice was calm. "I touched her. Just not the way they expected." After school, Amara walked home as usual. Backpack on one shoulder, hoodie up, eyes forward. But something felt different. Not outside. Inside, she felt tired. Not from the day, but from holding back all the time, from staying quiet. From pretending she reached her door, entered, dropped her bag. Her father stood in the kitchen, chopping vegetables. "How was today?" he asked without turning around. "Quiet," she said. He smiled faintly. "Good." She sat down at the table and watched him for a moment. "Dad," she asked, "why don't we let people know what we can do?" He put the knife down, wiped his hands. Then he sat across from her. "Because when they know," he said slowly, "they fear you, or they try to break you." He looked her in the eyes. "But when they don't know, they underestimate you. And that, Amara, is power." That night, she trained in the living room. Her kicks were sharper, her blocks faster, and her heart a little heavier. She didn't want power. She wanted peace. But peace wasn't always an option. Not when people treated silence as weakness. And not when something darker was coming. Because Tina wasn't finished yet. And the next time Amara would be tested, it wouldn't be in a hallway. It would be in front of the whole school. Night had fallen over the city. The apartment lights glowed softly behind thin curtains. And the faint sound of traffic hummed outside. Inside, Amara stood barefoot in the middle of her living room. Her hoodie was folded on the couch. Her hair was tied back. She wore a plain black shirt and flexible pants-straining clothes. Her father, Malik, stood across from her. Arms crossed. "Begin," he said simply. Without a word, Amara moved. She stepped forward. Sharp, fast. Her fists cut the air with clean practice strikes. Her legs swept low, her body light, balanced, precise. Every motion was quiet, controlled. Deadly, Malik watched silently, nodding now and then. Her form was nearly perfect, but something was off. He could see it in her eyes. After 10 minutes, he raised a hand. Stop. Amara slowed, breathing steady but hard. Sweat rolled down the side of her face. She looked up. What's wrong? He asked. She stayed quiet. Amara. I didn't want to do it, she finally said, her voice low. Yesterday. I didn't want to hurt her. You didn't. I could have done more. You didn't. She looked down. He stepped forward and placed a hand on her shoulder. That's what makes you different, he said. You have strength. But more importantly, you have control. Later that night, Amara sat in bed, staring at the ceiling. Her room was small, just a mattress, bookshelf, and a desk with her old karate certificates in a folder. One picture sat on her desk. A younger version of her stood proudly beside a woman in a white uniform. The woman had kind eyes and wore a black belt. Her mother Amara picked up the picture and held it close. Mom, she whispered, I wish you were still here. She remembered the day they buried her mother, the woman who had taught her to meditate, to balance, to breathe through the pain. The woman who had said karate isn't about hitting, it's about not having. 2. That was the day Amara made a silent promise. Never be weak again. But never use strength for pride. The next morning, Amara woke up early. She tied her shoes, packed her books, and walked to school like she always did. But something inside her had changed. She wasn't walking just to survive another school day. Now, she was walking to face what came next. At school, the whispers had gotten louder. People who once ignored her now watched her every move, some with respect, some with fear, some with confusion. A few students smiled as she passed. A few boys gave awkward nods, and teachers began noticing her more, calling on her in class, complimenting her neat homework. But not everyone was happy about the change. In the back corner of the cafeteria, Tina, Jade, and Mia sat at their usual table, but this time, they weren't laughing. They were planning. She embarrassed you, Jade said flatly. She embarrassed all of us, Tina replied, gripping her soda can tightly. Mia bit her lip. I told you something was off about her. She's dangerous, Tina said, leaning in. She's hiding something, and I'm going to find out what. What are you going to do? Tina smirked. We're going to break her, but not with fists, with shame. Later that day, Amara walked into her history class and froze for a second. Her seat had been moved, right next to Tina. The teacher smiled. New seating chart. Let's mix things up. Tina smiled too, sweetly. Too sweet. Amara walked slowly to the desk and sat down. She didn't say a word, but her mind was alert. Tina leaned over. Hi, Amara, she whispered. No hard feelings. Right? Amara stared straight ahead. I was thinking, Tina continued, we should hang out sometime. Maybe talk about your skills. I'm curious. Did your dad teach you? Or was it your mom? Amara's hands tensed. She turned her head slowly. I don't talk to snakes, she said quietly. Tina's smile cracked. After class, a note was slipped into Amara's locker. She opened it. Come to the gym after school. Alone, or we'll tell everyone your secret. She stared at the paper. No name, no signature. But she already knew who sent it. After school, the gym was nearly empty. Only a few basketballs rolled across the floor. The lights buzzed above. Amara stepped in and looked around. Tina stood near the bleachers, holding something in her hand, a printed photo. Amara's heart skipped. It was a picture of her and her father, training in the living room, private, personal. Where did you get that? She asked. Tina grinned. Your neighbor's son. He has a camera. And a price. You had someone spy on me. I told you, I'm curious. Amara stepped forward. What do you want? I want you to stop acting like you're better than everyone. Like you're untouchable. I never said I was. But you think you are. So here's the deal. Tina held the photo up. You bow to me. In front of the whole school? Admit you're a scared little freak hiding behind karate moves. And I'll delete this. Amara's eyes narrowed. And if I don't? Tina's grin widened. Then tomorrow, everyone's going to see the real you. It's a secret karate freak who trains like a weapon at home. Amara stayed silent. Tina smirked, turning to leave. But just before she reached the door, Amara spoke. I don't hide behind karate, she said softly. I hold back because I know what I can do. Tina turned. Excuse me? Want to fight you? Amara said. But if you push me again, I won't stop with just your wrist. Tina scoffed. Are you threatening me? No, Amara said, warning you. That night, Amara and her father sat quietly at the table. She told him everything about the photo, the threat and her warning. Malik didn't raise. Bassed his voice. He didn't panic. He only asked one question. Are you ready to face what comes next? Amara nodded. Yes. Placed a small box in front of her. She opened it. Inside was a brand, new black belt. Her final one? I kept it until I believed. You were ready, he said. I know you are. As she tied the belt around her waist that night in front of the mirror, Mara didn't smile. She breathed in, out, in, again, then whispered to her reflection, no more hiding. The next day, the school felt different. The air was heavy, quiet, too quiet. Even the usual morning rush in the hallway felt strange. Students were whispering more than they were laughing. Eyes kept glancing at phones, and then over at one person, Mara. She felt it. The weight. The stares. The silence. Something had changed overnight. At her locker, Amara pulled out her books like usual. But this time, when she opened her bag, she saw something slipped inside. A printed photo. Her training, her father, their living room. The same photo. Tina had threatened her with, but now it had red marker written across the top. Karate freak. Below it, another message. Let's see how brave you are in front of everyone. Amara didn't react. She folded the photo slowly. Put it in her pocket, took her books. Closed her locker. Then turned and walked away head up, eyes steady. In first period, students turned to stare at her. A few smirked. One whispered, She's a black belt, right? Isn't that like legal or something? Another muttered, She could probably break your ribs without blinking. Someone snorted, I heard she trained in a military bunker. None of them knew the truth. Not yet. But one thing was clear, the photo was spreading. Tina had done it. During lunch, Mara walked into the cafeteria and stopped. Every eye turned toward her. Laughter, whispers. Phones out, Tina sat proudly in the centered table surrounded by her crew. She waved a hand at Amara, like a queen greeting a servant. Mia and Jade smirked beside her. Amara scanned the room. Even Leah and Annika, who had been kind to her, looked unsure. Why didn't she tell us? Annika whispered. She's dangerous. Someone nearby muttered. Shouldn't she be expelled? Amara didn't sit. She didn't shout. She walked slowly to the middle of the cafeteria straight toward Tina's table. Everyone held their breath. Tina leaned back in her chair, arms crossed. Well, she said. Here to explain yourself? Ninja girl? Amara stopped in front of her. Her voice was calm, quiet, but it echoed like thunder. You think embarrassing me will make you powerful. Tina blinked. I think people deserve to know what you really are. What I am, Amara said, is someone who survived. The room went silent. Tina rolled her eyes. Survived what? Sparring with your couch cushions? Amara stepped closer. No. Tone didn't change. You don't know me. You don't know what I've seen, what I've lived through. You don't know about my mom or my father, or why I trained every single night while you laughed at strangers online. Tina stood up. You're trying to sound deep, but guess. What? People are scared of you now? They should be scared, Amara said softly.
Guess.
If I was like you, if I used what I know for revenge, no one here would be standing. Gasps echoed. Students shifted uncomfortably. Tina clenched. Her jaw. Are you threatening me? Amara shook her head. I'm warning you. Before Tina could speak again, a voice rang out across the room. Enough. Everyone turned. It was the principal. His face was tight. Serious. Amara Johnson. My office. Now. Tina smiled smugly, but Amara didn't look afraid. She walked to the principal's office with her head held high. Inside, the principal shut the door and pointed to the chair. Sit. Amara sat, calm. He sat across from her, dropped a folder on the desk, pulled out the same photo that had been passed around. I've seen this, he said. Do you know how serious this is? She nodded. Training like this. Fighting. Letting it go public during school hours, it looks bad. I never showed anyone, Amara said. Someone else did, to shame me. The principal leaned back. Why didn't you report the bullying? Because I thought I could handle it without making noise. Well, the whole school is watching now. He paused, then reached behind him and pulled out a USB stick. I reviewed security footage from the day you were grabbed. The hallway camera. He plugged the USB into his laptop and turned the screen so Amara could see. They both watched. The moment. Tina grabbed her shirt. Moment, Amara stepped aside. The perfect footwork. The sharp turn, controlled.com/no attack. No retaliation. You didn't hit her, he said. Not once. I warned her, Amara replied. He nodded slowly. That may be the only reason you're not suspended. By the time Amara returned to class, the whispers had grown louder, but something strange had started happening too. A few students gave her respectful nods. Some whispered, that was brave. One boy in her science class said quietly, I think what you did was cool. Not everyone was scared. Some were beginning to understand after school. Mara stood alone near the school gates waiting for the last bell to ring. Tina walked past. Her with Jade and Mia. You think this is over? She hissed. Amara didn't answer. Jade added, we're going to make sure people remember you for the freak you are. Mia stayed quiet. Her face looked unsure. Tina turned back. Hope you're ready for tomorrow. Assembly day. Amara frowned. What? Tina smirked. Let's just say the whole school's going to hear a story about you, one they'll never forget. That night, Amara trained harder than usual. Every strike, every block, every breath felt heavier. Sharper, her father watched, arms folded. You're not just training anymore, he said. You're preparing. Mara didn't stop moving. He stepped forward. Are you afraid? She stopped. Turned, I'm not afraid of them, she said. I'm afraid of what I'll do if they keep pushing. He nodded slowly. Then he stepped back and whispered, then stay in control, Amara. Because strength without control becomes destruction. The sun hadn't fully risen yet. The sky outside Amara's window was soft gray, with hints of orange in the distance. The city was still waking up, yet Amara had already been awake for hours. She stood barefoot in front of the full-length mirror in her room. Her hands were wrapped in white cloth, her hair tied back tight. She was wearing her karate uniform, not the one she wore at school competitions, but the one her father gave her last year. The one her mother had stitched a small symbol into, just over the heart, a red lotus. For strength through peace, Amara stared at her reflection. Not at her face, but at her stance, feet shoulder-width apart, arms steady, breathing deep, but behind her eyes was a storm. Her face didn't show it. But her thoughts raced. Images of Tina laughing, of classmates whispering, her mother's face the day she said, don't ever fight for revenge. Mara's jaw tightened. I'm not angry, she told herself. But a small voice in the back of her mind replied, then why are your hands shaking? She closed her eyes, breathed in, breathed out. Focused, she remembered her mother's voice. Gentle, calm karate is not for pride. It's for protection. If you ever feel the fight inside you growing too big, stop. Breathe. Look at your reflection. So she opened her eyes again and saw herself, still, centered, but behind her own shoulder, in the mirror. She thought she saw something else, a shadow, not real, just a feeling, a younger version of herself crying, hiding in the bathroom after being bullied at her old school, That girl didn't know karate. That girl just wanted to disappear. Amara blinked. The shadow was gone, but the memory stayed. Meanwhile, at Roosevelt High, the school gym was being prepared for the Friday assembly. Chairs were set in rows. The big screen was being lowered from the ceiling. Teachers moved around, checking microphones and speaker stands. And in the back hallway, Tina, Mia, and Jade stood near the side doors. Tina held a USB in her hand. "Is it ready?" Jade asked. Tina smirked. "It's more than ready. Little edit here, little music there. Once everyone sees what she's been hiding, she'll never walk this school again without people laughing." Mia shifted. "Are you sure this is a good idea?" Tina looked at her sharply. "Don't go soft now." "But she didn't even hurt you. She just defended herself." Tina stepped closer. "She made me look weak. Do you know what that means in this school?" Mia nodded slowly, but her eyes were troubled. Back at home, Amara sat at the kitchen table. Her father had already left for work. In front of her was a plain piece of paper. She picked up a pen and began to write. Not homework, not a letter, just thoughts. Today could go wrong. I could be laughed at. They might show videos, pictures, but they'll never know who I really am. Because who I am isn't on a screen. It's in my breath, in my balance, in my silence. She folded the note and placed it inside her bag. A reminder, not for anyone else but for herself, as she walked to school. The streets looked the same, cars, noise, students, the normal routine. But inside Amara's chest, her heartbeat was faster than usual. She didn't feel fear. She felt focus. At 10 a.m., the assembly began. Students filled the gym, laughing, texting, tossing paper balls across the chairs. But when the principal stepped up to the microphone, the room began to settle. "Good morning, students," he said. "Today we'll be sharing some special announcements and spotlighting a few student projects." He gestured to the screen. And first, a short video presented by Tina Daniels and her media group. Tina smiled wide. Mia looked down at her hands. Jade leaned back with her arms crossed. The lights dimmed, and the video started at first. It was just music, then a black screen, then images of Amara. Screenshots of her training at home. Clips slowed. Down. With red circles around her hands and legs like she was some kind of weapon, words flashed on the screen. Who is she really? What is she hiding? Dangerous. Laughter began to rise in the room, gasps, whispers. Someone shouted, "Yo, is this for real?" Tina grinned. But then something changed. The video cut to a clip of the hallway incident. Tina grabbing Amara's shirt, Amara stepping aside, perfectly, gracefully, not hitting back, not striking, just defending. The room went quiet again, and then the final words on the screen appeared. "Maybe the quiet ones aren't the weak ones." Tina's smile vanished. She looked at the screen in confusion. "That's not my ending," she hissed. She turned to Mia. Mia looked down and smiled softly. "I changed it," she whispered. "She didn't deserve your version." Tina's face turned red. The lights came back on. Everyone in the room was staring. But now, we're staring at Tina Amara. Someone in the back shouted, tried to humiliate her, and made her look like a legend. Laughter broke out this time, not at Amara. The principal stood back up. He didn't speak right away. Then finally he said, "Well, that was unexpected." He turned to Amara in the crowd. "Miss Johnson, if you'd like to say a few words." Amara stood up slowly. She walked to the stage. The room went still. She didn't take the mic. She didn't raise her voice. She simply said, "Thank you for showing them what I never wanted to brag about. But if strength is something to mock, then I'm proud of mine." She walked off stage. Silence followed, then dash applause, loud, real. From students who finally saw her not as a threat, but as someone strong and good. Later, the hallway, Tina stormed out the gym doors. Jade followed silently, but Mia stayed behind, watching Amara from a distance. She didn't speak. She just nodded once. Amara nodded back. That evening, Amara stood in front of the mirror again. No shadows this time, no doubt, just herself, her own reflection. And this time, she looked in the mirror. She smiled. A week had passed since the assembly, since the video, since the moment Amara stood silently on stage and turned the tide of an entire school's opinion with just her words. She hadn't asked to be respected, but now, students held doors open for her. They said hi. In the hallways, they didn't laugh when she walked by. Some looked at her like a hero. Others still watched her with caution. But most simply watched in awe in the cafeteria. A table that was once empty now had company. Leah, Annika, and 2 new students had joined Amara's side. Not to worship her, not to use her, just to sit, talk, laugh, like normal teens. Amara smiled more now, but inside she stayed ready, because peace in her life had always been short-lived, and danger didn't always shout. Sometimes it whispered first. Tina hadn't been seen much since the assembly. She skipped lunch, stayed quiet in class, even stopped hanging out with Jade. But something about her. Silence didn't feel like defeat. It felt like planning, and Amara knew it. She knew. Tina wasn't done, because some people don't accept losing. Not when their pride's been hurt in public. Not when the whole school claps for someone they tried to destroy. The warning came on a rainy Thursday afternoon. Amara was walking down the hallway when she saw a paper taped to her locker. No name, no signature, just one line written in bold. Black ink. You're strong, huh? Then prove IT. And under that, a time. Tomorrow. After school, the back of the gym. Dare. A challenge. A trap. Amara stared at the note. She didn't tear it down. She folded it. Then exhaled slowly. She knew exactly who sent it. And she also knew this wasn't about strength. It was about control. Someone wanted to break hers that night.
Amara.
Trained harder than usual, her father noticed. You're not just keeping your skills sharp, he said.
I'm not.
You're preparing for something? She nodded. There's going to be a moment. Someone's going to cross the line. Will you stop them? I'll try with words first, and if that fails. Amara paused, then answered. Then I'll remind them why silence doesn't mean weakness. The next day passed slowly. Classes felt like background noise. Voices blurred. Her focus was tight. Not nervous, but alert. At lunch, Mia sat at the table near her, quietly, carefully. She didn't speak until the others left. I heard something, she said. Amara looked up. They're setting you up. Tina's bringing someone. Cousin maybe. Not from this school. Amara didn't react. He's big. Fights dirty, Mia added. You shouldn't go. Amara closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them. I wasn't going to run anyway. 3:45 p.m., behind the gym, the rain had stopped. But the air still smelled like thunder. Amara stood under the old bleachers, alone, until voices approached. Tina, Jade, and a boy Amara had never seen before. Tall, broad shoulders, a scar across his eyebrow. He smirked when he saw her. So you're the girl they all talk about, he said, the one who dances like a little fighter. I don't fight for fun, Amara said. Good, he replied. Because I do. He dropped his bag, cracked his knuckles. Behind him, Tina grinned. She humiliated me in front of everyone, she told him. Make sure she remembers it. The boy stepped forward. Amara didn't move. Last chance to walk away, she said. He laughed. You're smaller than I expected. Amara took a single step back. Her stance shifted. Quietly. Balanced her hands. Rose not clenched fists, but open, ready to block. The boy charged. He threw a fast punch, wild heavy. Amara turned her shoulder and let it slide past her. He swung again. She ducked, slipped to the side. No panic. No rush. Her breath stayed calm. Her eyes stayed still. He tried a kick. She caught it, and in one motion, flipped him backward. He hit the ground with a dull thud. Groaning, Jade gasped. Tina's smile fell. The boy stood up, angry now. He charged again this time without thought, all emotion. And that was his mistake. Amara stepped in close, twisted, and gently locked his arm. Behind his back, 1 second, 2 seconds, he dropped to his knees, breathing hard, stunned. She let go. "Next time," Amara said quietly. "Listen to the warning." He stumbled back, stood up, and stared at her. But he didn't charge again. He didn't even speak. He simply turned and walked away. Tina looked stunned, frozen. "You said she was just a show-off," Jade whispered. Tina's voice cracked. I didn't think Amara turned to her, calm, controlled. "I told you once." Didn't want to hurt anyone. Tina didn't reply. Amara stepped forward slowly. "Now I have one question," she said. "Was this your last try?" Tina couldn't answer. And that silence was the loudest sound in the whole school. The next day, no one passed around rumors. No, one laughed, because what happened behind the gym had traveled like wildfire. Not as a fight, but as a story of control, of power without pride, of a girl who didn't want to hurt anyone, but didn't let anyone break her. In the school hallway, someone had written in chalk on the message board, "Some warriors don't raise their voice. But when they move everyone, here's them." The week after the fight behind the gym was quiet, too quiet. No more whispers. No more mocking notes in her locker. No more stares filled with fear or judgment. Instead, Amara walked the halls like a shadow, people finally respected. Students stepped aside politely when she passed. Teachers nodded at her in approval. Even the principal gave her a short, tight smile when he saw her. It wasn't praise. It wasn't worship. It was something deeper, recognition. But for Amara, peace never came with applause. She still walked with her head slightly tilted, not in pride. But in awareness, she watched corners. Listened to the silences, because her father had once told her, "Real danger doesn't shout, it knocks." And that knock came on a rainy Saturday morning. Amara was alone at home. Her father was working a security shift across town. She had just finished training in the living room, sweat on her forehead, breathing slow and deep. When knock, 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 3 short knocks at the door, she stood still. No one was expected. She moved to the door quietly, barefoot, stepping gently on the wooden floor. She looked through the peephole. A man stood outside, tall, in a dark green jacket, broad shoulders, sunglasses despite the rain. Amara's breath caught. She didn't know him, but something about the way he stood made muscles tighten, calm, still, like someone who didn't need to move fast because he could end things in seconds. She didn't open the door. "Amara Johnson," called out, voice deep but calm. "I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here with a message. From someone who knew your mother." Amara's eyes narrowed. Her hand slowly reached for the small baton hidden near the shelf. "I'm listening," she said through the door. The man waited a beat, then pulled something from his jacket pocket and placed it gently on the welcome. Matt, a photo. Old, faded, laminated. He stepped back. "Your mother saved my life once. When I was younger, before she left the martial arts world." Amara slowly opened the door just an inch, then another. Her eyes dropped to the photo, and her heart stopped. It was a picture of her mother, much younger, maybe in her early 20s, wearing a black karate gi with a silver belt Amara had never seen before. Next to her, the same man who now stood outside her door. Amara opened the door wider. "You knew her?" The man nodded. "Very well. She was the best fighter I ever saw. But more than that, she had discipline. She taught us control." "What's your name?" "My name is Daniel Reed. I trained with your mother before she retired." Before she disappeared from the scene, Amara stepped out, still cautious. "Why now?" Daniel paused, then looked at her seriously, "Because someone is asking questions about her, digging into her past and yours. People who aren't interested in peace." They sat in the kitchen. Daniel sipped the tea she made, never letting go of the photo. He watched her carefully, the way only a trained fighter watches another. "You're strong," he said. Amara didn't reply. but strength without understanding can be dangerous. Amara leaned forward. I don't fight for fun. I fight to defend, like my father taught me. Your father is a great man, Daniel said, but your mother, she was something else entirely. He slid another photo across the table. This one showed her mother breaking a concrete block with an open palm surrounded by people in military uniforms. Amara stared at it. I never saw this, she whispered. Because your mother didn't want you to, Daniel said. Away from that life, she wanted you safe. Hidden. Why? Daniel looked her in the eye. Because she was part of something bigger than tournaments. Bigger than trophies? Amara's heartbeat quickened. You mean, he nodded, a silent program? Underground, they trained people to protect world leaders, to infiltrate enemy camps without weapons. Your mother was part of it. Away when she became pregnant? Amara was stunned. My mom was a government agent. In a way, yes, Daniel said. But that's not why I'm here. Then why are you? Daniel leaned closer. Because someone from that old world is back. And they're trying to rebuild what was lost. They found your name, and now they want you. Amara stood up slowly, her fists clenched. Then they can come. I'm not afraid. Daniel smiled sadly. You should be. That night, Amara waited. For her father to return, she told him everything. The photo. The man. The truth about her mother's past. Malik said nothing for a long time. Then, he opened a locked drawer Amara had never touched before. Inside, a small envelope with her mother's initials, a flash drive, and a folded black headband with a silver lotus symbol. She left this for you, Malik said quietly. She knew this day would come. Amara held the headband in her hands. It smelled like her mother's perfume, faint, but real. She closed her eyes. She could almost hear her voice. You don't need to be a weapon. You need to be a wall between others and danger. Later that night, Amara stood in front of the mirror again, this time not in training clothes. She wore the black GI with the red lotus patch, and around her, forehead the silver headband? No, fear in her eyes, only resolve. Because now it wasn't just about bullies, not about Tina or students, or pride. It was about her family's legacy, about danger returning from the shadows, and Amara was no longer just defending herself. She was about to defend something far bigger. Amara didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed with her mother's headband beside her pillow, her eyes open in the dark. The questions raced in her mind. Who was after her? Why now? And what was she truly meant to become? The old photo of her mother breaking a concrete block played over and over in her mind. A secret world? A hidden program? It didn't feel real, and yet, somehow, it made everything make sense. Why her mother trained so seriously. Why her father always warned her never to fight unless it was the only option. Why they kept their lives private. In the morning, Amara dressed differently. Not in bright colors, not in her usual hoodie. She wore all black, like her training clothes, clean, sharp, quiet. She tucked her mother's headband into her backpack, hidden but close, as she stepped outside. Malik, her father, watched her from the kitchen window. He didn't stop her, because he knew. Her real tests were just beginning. At school, things felt normal, at least on the surface. But Amara felt it the shift. The way eyes followed her not out of fear, but curiosity, and something else. Expectation. During third period, while she worked. Silently, on a worksheet, the classroom door opened. Everyone looked up. A man in a school visitor badge stepped in. Apologies, Miss Taylor, he said to the teacher. Can I borrow Amara Johnson for a few minutes? The teacher looked surprised, but nodded. Of course. Amara stood. The man didn't say much as they walked down the hall, but she studied his movements. Too smooth. Too confident for a school visitor. Military shoes polished, hands still, like someone trained not to fidget. He led her past the office, past the library and a ward, the old gym no one used anymore. That's when she stopped walking. Where are we going? She asked. The man turned and looked at her, then finally said, We're going to see if your mother's training truly lives in you. The doors to the old gym opened with a long creak. Inside, silence. No students, no teachers, just 3 people. Already waiting? Daniel, the man who had visited her house, to others she'd never seen before, a tall woman with white hair tied back in a braid, a short, muscular man with deep scars on both hands. Close the door, Daniel said gently. Amara stepped in. The door shut behind her. This is a test, Daniel said. Not of how hard you can hit, but how well you understand who you are. Amara stayed silent. The white-haired woman stepped forward. I knew your mother, she said. She trained. With us, she walked away. But before she did, she told us something. What? Amara asked. She said, if anything ever happens to me, watch over my daughter. She's stronger than she knows. Amara felt her throat tighten. What? Is this place? She asked. The man with the scars replied, it's what's left of an old program. One that trained protectors, not soldiers. Not spies. People who end violence before it starts. And you think I belong to this? She asked. Daniel nodded. We don't recruit often, only when there's a reason. And someone's looking for you, Amara. Someone from the past. The scarred man added, if they find you before you're ready, they won't offer training. They'll offer chains. Daniel walked to the center of the gym. He pointed to a line of red tape on the floor. Your test is simple, he said. 3 rounds, 3 different types of opponents. You only pass if you show what your mother taught you: strength without cruelty, skill without pride. Amara didn't move. What happens if I fail? Daniel's voice softened. You go home. We'll protect you the best we can. But you won't be ready. She stepped forward, tied her hair back, slipped her mother's headband around her forehead, then said clearly, Round 1. The Speed Fighter. The first opponent was a young man, maybe 18. Dressed in flexible gear, light on his feet. He moved fast. Really fast. He charged without warning, testing her balance. Amara blocked each strike. Pivoted, but didn't attack. She used his own speed against him. He tried to sweep her feet. She leaped. Landed softly and tapped his shoulder with 2 fingers. Sign that she could have dropped him but chose not to. Daniel nodded once. Round 2. He said round 2, the mind game this time. It was the white-haired woman, but she didn't fight with fists. She walked around Amara, circling, speaking calmly. You think you're special because your mother trained you? She ran, she quit, just like you will? You don't belong to us? You're just a girl in a hoodie pretending to be something more. Amara stood still, breathing focused. The woman stepped in close, whispering in her ear, You'll never be more than your mother's shadow. Amara opened her eyes, stepped back, and bowed. I don't fight shadows, she said quietly. I light my own path. The woman smiled, passed her silently. Round 3, the final pressure. The third test was different. Daniel stepped in himself. No words, just movement, fast, brutal, expert. He struck toward her ribs. Amara blocked. He spun. Amara ducked. Then he dropped. Low and swept her legs. She fell hard. Wind knocked from her lungs, but she rolled to her feet. No. Panic, blood on her lip, but her eyes burned steady. Daniel came again, harder now. She dodged the elbow, pivoted, stepped in and placed her palm gently on his chest. Not a strike. A stop. She didn't fight him. She calmed him. Daniel froze, looked down, then smiled. You passed, he said. They helped her sit, gave her water. The woman placed a new headband beside her, this one black, with a silver symbol of balance. Your mother wore this on her final mission, she said. Amara took it, felt the weight of it in her hands, then whispered, I'm not just her daughter anymore. I'm my own warrior. Outside the gym, the sky had turned orange with late afternoon light. Students laughed across the campus. No one knew what had just happened inside, but Amara did. She had passed something no one else could see, and now Her journey was no longer just about high school. It was about a world watching from the shadows, and danger was closer than she thought. The next morning, everything looked normal, but Amara didn't feel normal anymore. Her body was sore from the test, but her wrists had light bruises. But more than that, her mind felt different. She had stepped into a world she didn't ask for, a world her mother had left behind, and now the pieces were returning slowly, silently. She walked to school like usual, backpack on, hood up, head down. But something was different in the air. It wasn't fear. It was silence before something big in class. Mara sat beside Leah and tried to focus. The teacher was explaining a history assignment. But Amara's thoughts were far away. Her hand moved across her notebook, but instead of notes, she drew something. A lotus flower with a black stem, and a shadow behind it, a symbol of peace and danger combined. When the bell rang, she stepped into the hallway, only to find Mia waiting near her locker. Mia looked nervous. "Can we talk?" she asked. Amara nodded and followed her into the empty stairwell near the science wing. There, Mia pulled something from her backpack. It was old, folded. YELLOWED. A letter. "This was inside my mom's old safe," Mia whispered. "My mom used to work for someone connected to a training program. Never talked about it, but I found this last night." Mara took the letter. On the back were initials written in faded ink, LJ. She opened it slowly. The handwriting was strong, but rushed. The ink smudged in places. "If anything happens to me, the girl must never be found. Not until she's ready. I'll come for her. Not because of who she is, but because of who she's meant to replace. She is more than a daughter. She is the final door." LJ. Amara's hands trembled. "This was written by your mother?" she asked. Mia shook her head. "No, I think it was written to my mom. By someone named LJ. Mara knew those initials. Lila Johnson, her mother. The letter was real, and it revealed something she never expected. She wasn't just trained to protect herself. She was being hidden because some group wanted her not for her skills, but for her place in something. Later that day, she went home and opened her mother's old box again. Inside were things she had seen before: an old medal, training photos, a worn notebook, but something told her to check the bottom lining. She removed the notebook, then lifted the fabric beneath. There, taped flat, was a second sealed envelope, untouched. She opened it. Inside was another note, written by her mother, this one to her. "Amara, if you are reading this, I'm not beside you anymore, but I trained you for this. I loved you too much to leave you unprepared. They will come. They'll try to twist what you know. They'll want you to fight for them, not for peace. You must never let them control your hands or your heart. The silver lotus is not a weapon. It is a promise. Find the man called Voss. He has the answers you need. He will only speak to you." Mom, that name, Voss. She had never heard it before. But now, it echoed in her mind like a warning or a countdown. She showed the letter to her father. That night, he didn't look surprised. "Voss used to work in the deepest part of the old program," he said. "He left it before I met your mother." Did she trust him? Because her father said he was the only one brave enough to question what they were really doing. Amara knew what she had to do. She had to find him. But the question was, how? The next morning, something strange happened at school. A substitute teacher took over her literature class. He was new, said his name was Mr. Wilson. But when he handed out the reading material, Amara noticed something strange. On the cover page of her copy, written lightly in pencil, "Voss is closer than you think. Watch the camera behind the library." She looked up. Mr. Wilson didn't even glance her way. He continued teaching like nothing happened that night. Walked back to school under cover of dusk. Alone, she reached the library window, where an old security camera sat, its red light blinking. She looked up and saw a small envelope taped behind the plastic camera shield. She climbed the ledge quietly and removed it. Inside, a folded map, and a time. Friday, 11:45 p.m. Roof of Building 6. The next step had begun, and the name. Voss was no longer just a mystery. It was the key to her mother, to her past, and maybe to the biggest secret of her life. The wind was sharp that night, cold, unforgiving. But Amara didn't shiver. She stood on the gravel roof of Building 6, her hood up, eyes scanning the dark campus below. The time was 11:45 p.m., just like the note said. She was alone. The city lights blinked far in the distance. Down below, the school was silent. No voices. No cars. No teachers. Only the soft hum of the rooftop air vents. She checked her watch, 11:47. Still. No one. She walked to the edge of the roof and looked down. Nothing but empty streets and a lone security light flickering in the parking lot. Then, behind her, a click, like metal shifting. She turned fast, and there, stepping out from behind the upper stairwell tower, was a man in dark clothing, tall, gray beard, sharp eyes that seemed to carry years of watching things from the shadows. He didn't smile. He didn't speak, but he raised one hand, showing an object in his palm, a silver lotus pin. Amara gasped quietly. The same symbol from her mother's letter. From her training, Voss? She asked. The man nodded. You've grown, he said. You look like her, but you stand like your father. Amara stepped forward slowly. I've been looking for you, no, Voss said, his voice low and steady. I've been watching you. I needed to be sure. Sure of what? That you weren't just trained, he said, but that you chose your strength. Not for pride, not for revenge, but to protect. They stood across from each other in the wind, two shadows on the roof. Voss pulled a folded document from his jacket and held it out. Amara took it, unfolded it, and felt her throat tighten. It was a classified mission file at the top. Operation. Law status. Terminated, and under it her mother's name, Lila Johnson. Your mother, Voss said slowly, wasn't just a fighter. She was the final student of a secret defense unit, one that trained guardians protectors of peace in places governments couldn't go. Amara nodded. I've heard that much. But what you don't know, Voss said, stepping closer, is that she didn't leave the program. She ended it. Amara froze. Ended it. Yes, because she discovered something inside it. Split, a dark side forming. People using the training to build silent soldiers, not guardians. Amara looked down at the file again. Yes. Some of the names were blacked out, but one stood out. Commander Jex Roth. She stood against him, Voss said. She exposed him, shut down his side of the program. But he disappeared, and now, Amara whispered. Voss nodded. He's back, quiet, recruiting, looking. For the next generation, looking for you. Amara's eyes narrowed. Why me? Because you're her daughter. Because he believes you were trained to take her place. Voss stepped to the ledge, staring into the night. He will not stop. He believes the world needs silent control. You're the symbol he needs either to use or to destroy. Amara stayed quiet, but her hands clenched. He already has eyes in your school, Voss added. Teachers, visitors, maybe even students. And if he finds out you're awake to the truth, Amara didn't let him finish. I'm not running, she said. I've been chased before. I'm done hiding. Voss finally looked her in the eye. You're brave, he said. No, Amara answered. I'm ready. Voss pulled a small device from his coat. It projected a glowing map into the air. Between them, dots blinked across the city. One glowed red. This, he said, pointing, is where Roth's people gather. Underground, abandoned warehouse. But it's just a test site. He won't be there yet. Amara memorized the location. I want to go, she said. Not to fight, Voss warned. To listen, she replied. They stood silently for a moment, then Voss handed her a key. Locker. 308, Midtown Station. Your mother's gear is inside. Use it wisely. And he stepped back into the shadows. You've walked through fear, he said, but now comes the fire. And with that, he disappeared down the stairwell. Amara stood on the rooftop, the cold wind wrapping around her below. The world slept, but inside her, everything had awakened. The next day, at school, Amara walked in like usual, but she saw everything differently now. A janitor, watching the halls too closely. A substitute who stood too straight for a regular teacher. A student with a strange device clipped to their backpack strap. The watchers were real, and she was now walking among them. But she said nothing. She watched. Back, because the game wasn't about fists anymore. It was about knowing who was real, who was pretending. She sat at lunch with Leah, Mia, and Annika, trying to act normal. But something inside her was already preparing. For the red dot. For the warehouse. The truth. That evening, she went to Midtown Station, just as Voss said. Locker 308. She opened it with the key inside, wrapped in cloth. Her mother's original uniform, a folding baton with the word balance etched into the handle, and a note written in her mother's handwriting. My strength became your training. Your pain became your balance. If you wear this, walk wisely. Amara held the uniform to her chest. She closed her eyes and whispered, I'm walking your path now, Mom, but this time I'll finish what you started. The warehouse sat on the edge of the city, tall, abandoned, silent. To most people, it looked like an empty storage building from another time. Cracked windows, rusted doors, a fading sign on the wall. But Amara knew better. This place wasn't dead. It was hiding something. She arrived just before midnight, dressed in her mother's black uniform, hair tied back, eyes sharp. The silver lotus emblem rested on her shoulder. Like a whisper from the past, she didn't come to fight. She came to listen, to learn, to watch, but still her hand stayed close to her baton. She moved like water, smooth, silent, just as her mother had taught her. The side entrance was unlocked, exactly as Voss had told her. She stepped inside. The air was cold, dusty. But deeper in, there were signs of life. A glowing table with documents, weapons lined up on a metal rack, a small laptop blinking with red light, and voices. She crouched behind a stack of old crates. Her heart thudded once, then steadied. She listened. A man was speaking. Calm, cold. We found the girl. She's close, but she's being trained. Someone is helping her. Possibly Voss. Amara froze. The voice belonged to someone who hadn't spoken yet in her story. But she knew his name. Commander Jex Roth. He stepped into view. Gray suit. Boots, a scar along his temple. His face was calmed, his eyes were empty, like he didn't feel fear, regret, or guilt. Another man asked, Should we grab her now? No, Roth said. She's emotional, still thinks for herself. It's not useful yet. What if she resists? Roth smiled. She will. He tapped the laptop. And when she does, we'll make her watch everything she loves fall apart. Mara's grip on her baton tightened. She wanted to move, to stop him, but something in her mother's last letter echoed in her mind. They'll want your rage, don't give it. Let silence be your strength. So she stayed hidden, watched, listened, until something changed. Suddenly Roth turned toward the shadows. Bring her in. Two guards appeared from a back hallway, dragging someone between them. A girl, small, tired, bruised. Mia. Amara's heart dropped. She almost stood up right then, but Roth raised his voice. This one was snooping. Talking to our people, digging into files she didn't understand. He crouched in front of Mia. You thought you were helping her? You thought friendship would protect you? Mia spat at him. He didn't flinch. He stood. Take her to the van. We'll use her to send a message. That was enough. Amara moved fast. She leaped from the crates and landed with a silent roll behind one of the guards. Crack. Her baton hit the back of his knee. He dropped. The second guard spun around, but Amara was already behind him. She kicked. Lothan swept his feet. Both hit the ground before they even knew what happened. Mia looked up, shocked. Amara? Amara ran to her and cut the zip ties around her hands. Can you walk? Mia nodded, dazed. But you have to go now, Amara whispered. Out the way I came. Quiet. Mia hesitated. What about you? Amara turned, eyes locked on Roth, who hadn't moved. I'm not finished here. Mia disappeared into the shadows. Roth stepped forward, clapping slowly. Well done, he said. You really are her daughter. Amara stood tall. I'm not here for your approval, no, Roth said. You're here because you still believe in peace. Closer, but peace is for the weak. For dreamers. He circled her like a wolf. Your mother destroyed a perfect system. We were building order. Power. Strength without rules. She threw it all away for morality. Amara raised her baton. And now I'm here to make sure it stays gone. Roth smiled and snapped his fingers. From behind the metal racks, 3 trained fighters appeared, masked, armed, ready. Let's see if you can survive what your mother did. Roth said, then he stepped back. The fight began. One rushed her. Amara ducked under the punch and struck his ribs fast, clean, controlled. Another grabbed her arm, but she twisted, flipped him over her shoulder, and spun to block a kick from. The third, 3 against 1, but Amara wasn't. Afraid, she moved like a shadow, quick, focused, every strike precise. They weren't used to fighters who didn't scream, didn't panic, didn't fight with anger. She fought with discipline, with calm fury, one by one. They fell groaning, defeated. Roth watched it all, expressionless. When the last one hit the floor, he clapped again, but slower this time. He pulled out a small device and pressed a button. The screen on the wall blinked to life. A live feed her school. A red circle blinked over the front entrance, and text appeared. Countdown. Initiated. 15 o'clock. Amara stepped forward. What is this? Test. Roth said. I knew you'd come. So I started a new challenge. He smiled darkly. Save the school or chase me? Amara's heart pounded. But you said you don't want me dead. I don't, Roth said. But fear has a funny way of changing people. Let's see what you become when the clock runs out. He dropped a smoke bomb. Boom. The room filled with fog. When it cleared, Roth was gone. Amara stood frozen for just 1 second. Then she ran out of the warehouse, into the night. Not for herself, but for everyone else. The clock was ticking. Amara ran through the city's streets like a shadow in motion. Her heart pounded with every step. The sound of Roth's voice echoed in her ears. Save the school or chase me? She didn't have a choice. Her classmates, her friends, even the teachers who had ignored her, they were all inside that building, and now they were in danger. She reached the school gate at 11:58 p.m. The building stood quiet. Dark, but something was wrong. The front security camera had been turned away, pointing into the bushes. And the side door, which was always locked, was slightly open. Amara didn't hesitate. She slipped inside. Her breath was steady, but her mind was racing. Roth said there was a countdown. 15 minutes. That meant she had maybe 2 left. She moved quickly through the hallway. Every shadow looked like a threat. Every corner could hide something dangerous. Then, near the main stairwell, she saw it. A black metal case wired to the wall. A small, blinking screen. 0 hours, 2 minutes, and 17 seconds, system armed. Her throat tightened. It was real. Roth hadn't been bluffing. She knelt beside it. The case was locked with a keypad. 6 digits. She didn't know the code. She didn't have time to guess. She stared at the numbers, trying to think. Then she remembered her mother's letter. The silver lotus is not a weapon. It is a promise. She looked at the number pad again. There were letters under each number. Just like an old, shown 7s. Nothing. Suddenly, the screen blinked. Code denied. 1 attempt remaining. Amara backed away, frustrated. Come on, Mom. What am I missing? She stared at the case and then noticed something strange. The school logo was scratched off on one side. Underneath, a hidden engraving, LJ.7.18.0 for her mother's initials, and a date. July 18th, 2004, her mother's birthday, Amara. Typed 071804, the screen blinked dash, clicked the light turned green, the countdown.
Ow.
Stopped at 0 hours, 0 minutes and 38 seconds. She exhaled. Long and slow, but before she could move, she heard it footsteps, coming fast. Not one pair. 3. Amara stood up quickly, a baton ready. From the hallway, 3 masked figures entered silent and fast. One carried a stun rod. The other 2 were unarmed, but their stances showed they were trained. They weren't students. They weren't guards. They weren't. The first charged. Amara ducked and swept his legs in one motion. He fell hard. The second grabbed her arm, tried to twist, but she moved with it. Rolled and kicked him backward. The third was quicker. He struck with the rod, electric sparks flashing. She dodged just in time, but the rod grazed her shoulder. Her body jolted in pain. She fell to one knee, but she didn't stop. She stood back up. Grit in her teeth. Fire in her chest. "You want to hurt kids?" she shouted. "You came to the wrong school?" She launched forward. Her baton connected with the attacker's wrist, knocking the rod out of his hand. She spun low, kicked him backward, then turned, and dropped the final fighter with a controlled elbow to the side of the neck. Thud. Silence. All 3 were down. Not dead. Not broken. Just stopped. Exactly the way her mother taught her. She tied them with the school's emergency fire hose, then ran to the office, picked up the intercom mic. Her hand hovered over the button. She had never used this before. She took a breath and pressed it. Her voice echoed through the school. "This is Amara Johnson. Everyone needs to stay calm and stay where you are. You're safe. But some people tried to hurt us tonight. They've been stopped. You are not alone." She put the mic down. And for the first time, she let herself breathe. Outside, flashing. Lights began to arrive. Police. Sirens. Officers running toward the building. But Amara didn't run. She walked outside. Arms raised, hands open. She pointed to the open door. There are 3 intruders inside. They're tied up. There's a device on the stairwell wall, but it's been deactivated. The officer blinked. "You did all that?" Amara didn't answer. She didn't need to. By morning, the news had spread, not just across the school, but across the city. Masked attackers stopped at high school by a known student. Bomb defused seconds before detonation. Teen hero disappears before press arrives. But inside the school, in the lunchroom, students didn't whisper anymore. They didn't stare. They didn't laugh behind her back. They stood up. When she walked in, because now they knew she wasn't just quiet, she wasn't weak. She was the one who saved them. But Amara didn't stay. Long she picked up her bag and left because there was one. More person she had to find. Roth was still out there. And now, he knew exactly what she was capable of. That night, a message came through the burner phone Voss gave her. A simple text. "You're ready for the next step? Meet me. Tomorrow night. Bring the uniform." Amara closed her eyes. She was no longer walking toward her past. She was walking into her purpose. The sky was heavy with clouds, dark still, like Lit knew something big was about to happen. Amara stood alone at the edge of the old train yard, where broken rails curled into shadows and rusted cars sat forgotten. This was the location Voss had sent. No lights. No cameras, no people, only silence, and a single message. Tonight, we go to him. Amara wore the uniform, black trimmed with silver. Her mother's emblem, the silver lotus pressed against her chest. She didn't feel like a child anymore. Not like the girl who used to sit in the back of the class. Not like the girl who got shoved at her locker now. She felt like something more. At exactly midnight, Voss appeared, as if the shadows had delivered him. Same calm eyes. Same quiet strength. "You made it," he said. I'm not afraid, Amara replied. Voss studied her, then nodded once. I believe you. He reached into his coat and handed her something. A key card. What's this? The entrance to Roth's base, he said. It's not just a building. It's a network beneath the city, underground. Why would he hide there? 'Cause that's where he started everything, Voss said. It's where your mother found the files, where she made the decision to burn it all down. They walked together down a gravel path behind the train yard. It ended at a rusted hatch, half covered in weeds. Voss pulled the cover aside. Beneath it, metal stairs disappearing into darkness. Amara looked down, then stepped in first. No hesitation. The wood tunnel was long. Cold air rushed up from below. It smelled like metal and dust. But with every step, the memory of her mother's voice grew louder in her heart. Walk wisely. Protect more than yourself. Let silence be your power. Finally, they reached a steel door with a glowing scanner. Amara swiped the KEYCARD. Click. The door opened, and what lay beyond it? Command center, bright screens. Walls lined with control panels. Tables filled with weapons, gear, maps. It looked like a military bunker, except it wasn't run by soldiers. Men and women in black moved through it silently. They didn't speak. They didn't smile. They followed orders, like machines. This is what he built. Amara whispered. Voss nodded. Before your mother shut him down, Roth trained people to obey, to act without question, to become shadows. And now, he's doing it again, yes, Voss said. But this time with more anger, more control. And he wants me to lead it, Amara realized. Or destroy it, Voss said. Depending on what kind of fighter you become. Voice echoed through the room, cold, confident. You've finally arrived. Amara turned. At the top of a staircase stood Commander Roth, same scar, same calm smile. But now, wearing a black coat with a silver emblem, not the lotus, but a broken version of it, cracked down the center. Leave us, Roth said to the others. The room emptied in seconds. Only Amara. Voss and Roth remained. The silence was thick. Roth descended. The steps, hands behind his back. Not afraid. Not angry. Just patient. You've grown, he said. Your mother would be impressed. Don't talk about her, Amara said, voice sharp. She was strong, Roth continued, ignoring her words, but soft. She believed in peace, in holding back, and it got her killed. Amara's breath caught. He knew. You were. There, she whispered. I gave the order, Roth replied. She was becoming a threat, a hero. Heroes cause chaos. Amara's baton was in her hand now, but she didn't strike. Roth smiled again. You don't want to kill me? You want to prove me wrong? You don't train protectors, Amara said. You build followers? Slaves? I build order, he said calmly. The world needs control. Quiet power. You've seen what chaos looks like. Your school. Your city. Even your friends. They're all weak. All loud. He walked toward her slowly. You, Amara, are different. He held out a device. A small black badge marked with the broken lotus. Take this lead with me. Finish what your mother was too afraid to do. I'm nothing like you, Amara said. No, Roth said, stepping closer. You're better. Suddenly Voss moved, but Roth snapped his fingers. Boom. Gas shot from the vents. Thick, white, fast. Amara coughed, her vision blurred. Voss tried to push her back, but the gas filled the room. Guards returned from the side. Halls dashed fast. Voss pulled her behind a pillar. We have to go now. Amara coughed, dizzy but nodded. They ran through the far corridor, dodging guards. Smoke, blinding lights. She fought two off with her baton. Blocked a punch, rolled, jumped over a broken panel, and finally, they burst through a side tunnel and slammed the door behind them. Amara dropped to her knees, coughing, her vision clearing. Voss leaned over her, checking her pulse. I'm okay, she gasped. I'm okay. Silence returned. only the sound of dripping water in the tunnel. Voss stared at her for a long time, then said quietly, "He's afraid of you." They walked out of the bunker an hour later, back to the surface. The city lights returned like stars reappearing. Amara looked up at the moon. "Why didn't you let me fight him?" she asked. Voss answered calmly, "Because he's not ready to lose yet, but soon he will be." And in her heart, she knew. The next time they met, one of them wouldn't walk away. The city was quiet the next morning, but Amara didn't rest. She sat by the window in Voss's safe house, eyes locked on the rising sun. So much had changed. She had seen the face of the man who ordered her mother's death. She had entered his base. He had offered her power. She had said no, but it wasn't over. Not yet. Roth wasn't done, and now she had to finish it. Voss entered the room carrying a steaming mug. "You haven't slept?" he said. "I can't," Amara replied. "He's planning something. He always is." She turned toward him. "I want to take him down. All of it. The program. His army." The lies. Voss nodded slowly. "Then it's time for a real plan." He unrolled a large map across the table. On it were marked Roth's known hideouts, his underground base satellite buildings, called training zones, a location marked in red. The origin hub. Amara leaned in. "What's this?" she asked, pointing to the red dot. "That," Voss said, "is where the program began. The first lab. The first fighters. It's also where Roth is storing his final weapon." "Weapon?" Voss paused. "It's not a bomb. It's not even physical." Amara's eyes narrowed. "Then what is it?" Voss pulled a thin folder from his coat. Inside were photographs. Amara flipped through them. One made her stop breathing. It was her. A photo of Hurt training in the yard behind her old house. Taken without her knowledge. "Where did he get this?" "Been watching you for years," Voss said, "even before your mother died." "But why?" Well, Voss pulled out another sheet. It was a copy of her DNA file. "Because you weren't just trained," he said. "You were chosen." Amara froze. "What do you mean?" Voss hesitated, then spoke slowly. "There was a program, a genetic one. Years ago. Secret. Ruthless. They were building perfect fighters. People who could endure more, heal faster. Think. Quicker. Your mother hated it. She fought against it." Amara's mouth was dry. "You're saying I was part of that?" "No," Voss said quickly. "But your mother was. She escaped it. She stopped it. But some things stayed in her blood and passed to you." Amara sat down hard. "You knew this whole time? I protected you because of it," Voss said. "But Roth wants to restart the program. And you are the proof it works." Silence filled the room. Amara looked at her hands. They looked the same, but suddenly they felt different, like she didn't fully own them anymore. She stood up. "No, I'm not his proof. I'm not anyone's tool." She looked Voss in the eye. "We're taking it all down. Every base. Every file. Every backup." Voss nodded. "And we'll need help." That night, Amara made 3 calls. One to Leah, one to Mia, and one to a number her mother once scribbled inside a book. She didn't explain much, just one sentence. "Meet me tomorrow, rooftop, 8 p.m., if you trust me." The next night she waited on the school rooftop again. It felt like ages ago since she last stood there, since Voss had first shown her the truth. Now it was her turn to lead. One by one, they arrived. Leah, wearing dark clothes, nervous but ready. Mia, determined, carrying a USB drive of Roth's exposed files. And then, a man Amara had never seen before. Tall, heavy shoulders. Bald head. A long scar down his jaw. Voss introduced him. "This is Ranger," he said. Was one of the first to break free from Roth's training. He knows the layout. Ranger looked Amara up and down. "You're the kid?" he asked. "I'm the reason we'll win," she said, calm and steady. He grinned. "Good answer." Together, they laid out the final plan. There were 3 targets: the training zone in East District, the communication center in the city tunnels, The Origin Hub. Roth's secret base Amara would lead the final team into the Origin Hub, Ranger, and Voss would take the training zone. Mia and Leah would hack and crash the comm center from a school server. 3 strikes, 1 night all at once. If they failed, Roth would vanish. If they won, his empire would fall. The time was set. Friday, 10 p.m. The final battle. That night. Amara stood at her window, looking out at the city. Lights blinking in every building. She wondered how many people were living their lives peacefully, never knowing someone like Roth existed beneath their feet. She wasn't bitter. She was ready. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You shouldn't have come to the lion's den. The lion is coming to yours. Attached, a live photo of her school, the hallway, her locker. The lights were on. Amara stared at the screen, then whispered, "He's already watching." 10 o'clock. p.m. The city slept under a blanket of clouds, but deep beneath the streets. The battle had already begun. Amara crouched in the shadows beside a broken wall near the Origin Hub. She wasn't alone. Leah, Mia, Voss, and Ranger flanked her on all sides, each of them dressed in dark clothes, each of them holding something sharp either in their hands or in their minds. No turning back now. They had already heard from Team 1. Ranger's old contacts had shut down. The East District Training Zone. It had gone smoother than expected. No guards. No alarms. Too smooth. Then came silence from Team 2. Mia's eyes searched her laptop screen. She pressed her earpiece again. Leah, could come in. Leah, do you copy? Nothing. Not even static. Amara's stomach twisted. She knew the risks, Voss said. We all did? No, Amara said. She's still out there. We just have to move faster. They reached the final door of the Origin Hub. It looked like any warehouse entrance, but behind it was Roth's future, his plans, his files, his final stand. Amara turned to Ranger. You ready? He smirked. Always. She looked at Voss. Stay. Close to Mia. If something happens to me, it won't, Voss said, cutting her off. You're her legacy. And her legacy doesn't die here. Amara nodded once, then turned and opened the door. The Origin Hub was nothing like she expected it. Wasn't cold and empty, it was alive. Lights flashed. Screens buzzed. Dozens of people moved through atop operating machines, checking weapons, transferring data onto glowing servers. This wasn't a plan, it was an army, and at the center, standing calmly beneath a digital map of the city, was Roth. He saw her instantly and smiled. You came. She stepped forward. I'm here to end this. Roth raised an eyebrow. All of this, he said, waving to the room. This isn't war, it's control. Peace through discipline, through fear. You call it peace, she said, but it's just a bigger cage. Roth walked slowly toward her. Your mother said the same thing. But she forgot what fear does to people. Fear keeps them in line. Fear prevents chaos. He stopped a few feet away. You stopped one attack. Saved your school. You think that makes you a hero? No. Amara said. It makes me ready. Suddenly lights flashed red. Alarms blared. Ranger's voice came through her earpiece. Amara, the comm center was never hit. It was a trap. Leah's been taken. Amara's blood ran cold. Roth heard it too, and smiled wider. You see, he said, you think you're in control? But I wrote this ending years ago. He turned toward the large screen and pressed a button. A live video feed came up. Leah tied to a chair, blindfolded, in a room with no windows. You have one choice, Roth said. Join me, or she dies at midnight. Amara's breath caught in her throat. She stared at the screen, then at Roth. I'm not choosing either, she said. Roth raised a brow. Then you're choosing failure. That's when Voss entered the room, dragging one of Roth's lieutenants by the collar, found him trying to reroute power to your escape door. Voss growled. Roth looked annoyed, but not afraid. Then I guess I'll just trigger the protocol manually. He pressed another button. The floor beneath Amara rumbled. A steel cage rose slowly from below, holding a small capsule. A glowing device, pulsing. Amara had seen it in Roth's file. The mind sync pulse. It could wipe memory, reset thought patterns, reprogram soldiers, and Roth was going to use it on the next generation students like her. They'll forget who they are, he said, and become exactly who I say they are. Amara lunged. But Roth had expected it. He dodged, grabbed her wrist. Twisted, she rolled out and kicked hard, sending him stumbling back. He laughed, even as he wiped blood from his lip. You fight. Like her, he said. But you still believe in mercy. The room exploded into chaos. Ranger took on two of Roth's guards. Voss smashed the control panel with his baton. Mia screamed as sparks flew from her laptop. Roth hit the ground, but crawled. To the pulse device, he reached for the trigger. Amara saw Etan through her baton crack. It hit his hand. The trigger skidded across the floor. Amara raced him. They both dived for it. Roth got there, first held it in both hands, smiled. Double quotes. You lose. But Amara didn't stop. She slid beneath him, grabbed his jacket hand, flipped him over. Her shoulder, he slammed to the ground. She jumped on top, grabbed the trigger, ripped it away, looked him in the eyes. You're finished. She stood, tossed the trigger to Mia. Upload the virus. She shouted. Mia nodded, plugged in the final drive, and ran the code. One by one, screens went black. The army of workers froze. The files wiped themselves. The pulse device shut down, and Roth, he just lay there, staring at the ceiling. Silent. Voss stood over him. It's over. Suddenly, a voice echoed through Mia's earpiece. This is Leah. I'm out. Got help. I'm safe. Mia grinned. She made it. Amara closed her eyes, let the relief wash over her as the sirens of approaching police cars echoed in the distance. Roth looked up at Amara one last time. You won, he said quietly, but peace is temporary. Someone else will rise. Amara shook her head. Maybe, but if they do, she held up her baton. I'll still be here. And as the lights shut down one by one, the Origin hub died, and so did Roth's empire. The morning after the fall of Roth's empire, the city felt different. Not louder, not wilder. Just clearer, like something heavy had been lifted from the air. But for Amara, it wasn't over. She stood at the edge of the rooftop where this had all started. Her uniform was torn. Her shoulder still ached. Her hands were cut from last night's final fight. But she didn't care, because Roth was gone. The Origin hub was destroyed. His files, his experiments, his plans were all erased. The city didn't know it yet, but it had been saved by the quietest girl in the school. Behind her, the door creaked open. Mia stepped out, holding 2 cups of tea. You should rest, she said. Amara took one silently, then smiled. I will soon. They sat down side by side, looking out at the rising sun. You know, Mia said, a week ago, people didn't even know your name. Amara didn't answer right away. Then she whispered, I didn't want them to. Why? Because I didn't think it mattered. Mia looked over at her. You saved hundreds of lives. You broke a system.
Oh.
You stood up to the man who killed your mother? She smiled softly. You matter now? Amara let that sink in, not in a proud way, but in a peaceful one. Suddenly, Leah appeared in the doorway, bruised but safe. She walked with a limp, but her face was lit up. News, says Roth's. Files were all wiped. The government is denying he ever existed. But someone leaked footage of the fight. Amara looked at her. You? Leah smirked. I figured the world deserves to know who the real hero is. Later that day, the school gathered for an emergency. Assembly. Students shuffled in, confused. The principal stood nervously on stage, mumbling something about events and community safety. But no one listened. They were all looking at one person. The girl walking slowly down the aisle, in a black jacket, silver lotus on her chest. Amara, people moved aside for her. Some whispered, some stared, but no one laughed, no one mocked, and no one touched her. Not anymore. She stood in front of them, quiet. Still, the room waited, not because she asked them to, but because they finally saw her. Then she spoke. Calm, clear. I know most of you didn't notice me before. That's okay. I didn't come here to be seen. She paused. I came here to learn, to live. But some people wanted to take even that from me. Not just from me, from all of us. Okay. She looked around the room. Her voice never shook. They tried to control what we think. Who we become? They failed, because we chose something stronger. Another pause. Each other. The room was silent, not out of fear, but respect. And for the first time, Amara didn't feel like the quiet girl in the hallway. She felt like someone. Whole. After the assembly, as she packed her things in her locker, Coach Ramirez approached her. He hadn't said a word to her in months. But now, he offered her a small envelope. What's this? She asked. Your application to teach self-defense, he said. I already signed it. Thought you might want to lead a class. Amara smiled. I'll think about it. In the weeks that followed, things changed. The school added new security, new awareness programs, new clubs like the one Mia and Leah started, Voices Unseen. Amara didn't join, but she showed up, sat in the back, listened. That was her way at home, she framed. The silver lotus badge, put it next to her mother's last letter, not as a reminder of pain, but of power. One evening, she walked past the same locker where the 3 bullies had once grabbed her. By the shirt, it was empty now. The girls had been expelled after being caught helping Roth scouts early on. She didn't smile. She didn't feel bitter. She just kept walking, because now everyone knew. The girl they thought was weak, the girl they pulled at and mocked, had become something they would never forget. A protector, a fighter, a voice that spoke through silence. Amara Johnson, the girl who never needed to shout, because when it mattered, she moved.